Cole Maddox had ridden across 3 counties for a single purpose: to buy the Blood Bay mare, rumored to be the fastest creature in the territory. He needed her for a new breeding program, something that would finally lift his ranch out of debt. The morning was calm, the wind still. The dust soft beneath his boots as he approached the old barn where the seller had insisted they meet, quiet, secluded, away from town noise. Cole didn't trust men who wanted to meet away from town noise. Yet the price was good, and good deals in hard times often demanded risk. The barn seemed abandoned, boards warped from years of sun and rain. No horses whinnied. No sounds of life echoed inside. Cole frowned but pushed the door open. A single shaft of sunlight pierced the dim interior, illuminating drifts of hay, old tack, empty stalls. The mare wasn't here, but someone was. A sound reached him faint, like a muffled sob. Cole moved slowly, hand hovering over the revolver at his hip. Another sound, this one, a choked breath. Then he saw her, against the far wall, half hidden by shadows. A woman sat collapsed, chained by both wrists. Her dress was torn, her skin mottled with bruises, her hair hanging in filthy strands around her face. One eye was swollen shut. Dried blood clung to her lip. She looked like she had been beaten, starved, and left to die. For a moment, Cole forgot how to breathe. The woman flinched as he approached, too weak to fully lift her head. "No more, please," she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. Cole dropped to one knee beside her. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I ain't here to hurt you." Her good eye flickered open, confusion and fear swirling within. She didn't believe him. Why would she? A stranger in a place of suffering looked no different than the monsters who had put her here. Cole studied the iron cuffs, digging into her wrists. The chain bolted into the wooden beam, the bruises shaped like fists and boot heels. Rage rose inside him, sharp, blistering, unfamiliar. He had seen cruelty, but this was the work of more than brutality. This was ownership. This was control. This was someone claiming the right to break a woman as if she were livestock. He took a slow breath, forcing himself calm. "I'm gonna get you out of here," he murmured. "But I need you to trust me for just a minute." Her eye fluttered closed as if she lacked the strength to argue. Cole sprang into action. He stood, scanned the barn, found a rusted hatchet buried under old tools. It wasn't made for metal, but he made it work, prying, hacking, ripping at the chain until the bolt cracked loose. The woman slumped forward, too weak to hold herself upright. He caught her before she hit the dirt. She felt like nothing, so small, so thin, as if her body had been starved of hope long before it had been starved of food. Cole lifted her gently, one arm under her knees, the other bracing her shoulders. Her head rested against his chest, and she let out a sound that broke him, half sob, half sigh. Relief mixed with terror. The sound of someone who wanted to believe safety was possible, but had learned the world was crueler than miracles. He carried her outside, where sunlight warmed her bruised skin. She squinted, wincing as if the brightness hurt. Yet she clung weakly to his shirt, as though some part of her didn't want him to let go. Cole wrapped her in his coat and mounted his horse, settling her gently in front of him. She shook uncontrollably, not from cold but from everything she had endured. "What's your name?" he asked. Silence. Then a whisper. "Ilara." It was a beautiful name, even if spoken through pain. "All right, Ilara," he said softly. "I'm talking you home." His ranch lay miles away, miles he traveled with fury burning in his veins. Someone had done this to her. Someone had chained her, beaten her, hidden her like a shameful secret. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't random. This was a crime with a name and a face, and Cole intended to find both. As they rode, Ilara trembled, but he felt her head lean gently against his chest. A moment of fragile trust. It struck him then she didn't know him, didn't know if he was another captor. But she had chosen, even if only for this moment, to let him carry her. That kind of trust was sacred. Cole made a silent promise to honor it. When they reached the ranch, his foreman gasped at the sight of her. Cole barked orders: water boiled, clean cloths, soft blankets, broth warmed slowly. Ilara's wounds were tended, though some were too deep to heal quickly. As she drifted in and out of consciousness, Cole saw glimpses of terror in her eyes, the flinch when someone's hand came near, the tension in her body when a door creaked, but she didn't flinch from Cole. Not once. He sat beside her as she rested, his chair pulled close, his presence steady. He didn't ask questions, not yet. She needed safety before she could bear memory. Outside, the sun fell behind the ridge. Cole remained by her side, watching over her as if she were the most precious thing he'd ever been entrusted with. He had come for a horse. Instead, he had found a woman whose suffering demanded justice, and whose courage demanded protection, and Cole Maddox was a man who never walked away from either. This was the moment his life changed. This was the moment their story began. Ilara's first full morning at the Maddox Ranch arrived with a strange quiet that didn't feel real. For days, maybe weeks, she couldn't tell. Her world had been dim, echoing with footsteps and chains and the voice of the man who had broken her. Safety was a memory she had buried long ago. Kindness? That belonged to another lifetime. So when she woke wrapped in clean quilts, resting on a soft mattress instead of cold dirt, her heart panicked. Her breath hitched. Her hand shot instinctively toward her wrist as if the cuffs might still be there. When she found only skin, only soreness, only freedom, she didn't feel comfort, she felt terror. Morning sunlight warmed her face through the window. Outside, she heard the gentle sounds of a ranch beginning its day boots on the porch, chickens clucking, someone calling for a horse to settle down. None of it matched the fear clawing at her insides. She tried to sit up but winced as her ribs protested. Every bruise, every cracked voice in her memory screamed that she wasn't supposed to be here. She didn't belong in a clean room. She didn't deserve a soft blanket. She didn't deserve to live somewhere. She wasn't chained. She was damaged. And damaged things were not meant for comfort. The door opened slowly. Ilara's whole body tensed. She pulled the blanket to her chin, breathing fast and shallow. Cole Maddox stepped inside. He didn't speak immediately. He didn't rush to her side. Instead, he removed his hat respectfully, held it against his chest, and waited as though he were entering a church and she was the altar. "Morning," he said softly. Ilara swallowed hard. His presence filled the room, tall, broad-shouldered, sun-browned, steady. She remembered how he had carried her, remembered the warmth of his coat, the gentleness in his voice. Yet her body trembled, unable to believe any man could be different from the others. Cole noticed her fear. His jaw tightened, not from frustration at her, but from fury toward whoever had done this to her. "Just checking on you," he murmured. "Wanted you to know you're safe here. No one comes through that door without your say-so. Not even me." Her lips parted, but no sound came. "Safe?" The word felt foreign. Cole set a steaming bowl of broth on the small table beside her bed. "You don't have to eat it now, but it'll help once you can." He stepped back, hands visible, movement slow like someone approaching a frightened animal he didn't want to spook. Ilara whispered, barely audible, "Why? Why are you helping me?" Cole took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "Because someone hurt you. And because I found you. And because leaving you there wasn't an option, not for any decent man." Her vision blurred. She looked down at her shaking hands. "But I'm ruined." Cole's expression changed, something fierce, protective rising in his eyes. "Ma'am," he said softly but firmly, "you ain't ruined. You're hurt. That's different." Ilara shook her head. "You don't know what happened. You don't know." "I don't need to know," he interrupted gently. "Not till you're ready. And even then, only if you want to tell me." No man had ever said "if you want" to her. No man had ever given her a choice. It felt like a miracle, but miracles were dangerous. They made you hope, and hope could shatter a soul worse than chains ever could. The days passed slowly. Full of small battles, Ilara fought silently, learning to trust the room around her, learning to walk again without stumbling from weakness, learning that when someone knocked on a door it didn't mean pain was coming. Cole visited every day, but never for long, and never too close. He brought food, blankets warmed by the fire, a small carved bird he said he whittled when he couldn't sleep. He spoke in a calm, low voice, telling her about the ranch, the horses, The weather, normal things. That felt like another world. He treated her like a person, not like a problem, not like property, not like something broken, but even as her body healed, her mind remained trapped. Each night she woke from nightmare sweat cold on her skin, lungs burning as she gasped for air. She heard the click of chains in her dreams, the sound of boots on wooden floors, the mocking voice of the man who had taken her freedom. Sometimes she screamed. Sometimes she cried silently into her pillow. Once she tried to climb out the window, convinced someone was coming for her. Cole heard her one night, her cries muffled through the hall. He rushed to the door, but he didn't enter. He just stood outside, voice steady as a rock. "Ilara," he called softly. "You're safe. You're at the ranch. No one's touching you here. I promise." His words steadied her breathing. His voice became an anchor she clung to. By morning, she felt exhausted but alive. Later that day, Cole brought her outside for the first time. The sunlight hurt her eyes at first, but as she blinked, the ranch came into view. Wide fields of golden grass, horses grazing peacefully. The smell of hay and morning coffee drifting from the porch. He set up a chair for her beneath the shade of a cottonwood tree. Ilara looked around, overwhelmed. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Cole nodded. "Thought you might like a bit of fresh air." She glanced at him. "I don't deserve this." He frowned deeply. "Who told you that?" Her silence answered everything. Cole lowered himself onto the ground beside her, choosing not the bench, not another chair, just the earth, as if grounding himself to make sure his words would hold weight. "Ilara," he began slowly, "whatever you've been through, whatever that monster did to you, none of it determines your worth. None." Her throat tightened. "You don't know me." "Then let me," he said, quiet but steady. She felt her heartbeat flutter fear and something else. Something warm. Something she didn't trust yet. "Why?" she whispered. Cole looked out over the ranch, wind stirring his hair. "Because you walked out of hell and still managed to breathe? That takes more strength than I'll ever have." Ilara blinked fast, trying to keep tears from falling. "No," she whispered. "I wasn't strong. I survived because I had to." He turned his gaze back to her. "Surviving is strength." The words sank into her like sunlight through winter frost. Days turned into weeks. Ilara grew stronger, both in body and spirit, though she still battled guilt for taking up space, for needing help, for not healing fast enough. Cole never rushed her. Never pushed. He was patient, like the slow growing of the land itself. One afternoon, when she managed a short walk to the corral, she hesitated beside the horses. Her heartbeat raced. She hadn't been around animals in so long. The sounds, the movements, they startled her. Cole stepped up beside her, careful to keep distance. "You okay?" She swallowed. "I don't want to be afraid of everything." "You won't be," he said gently. "Fear ain't permanent. You faced worse." She forced herself to breathe deeply. One horse, a gentle buckskin mare, approached the fence. Ilara flinched as the animal stretched its neck toward her. Cole spoke softly. "She likes you." Ilara thought the mare must be confused. But when she hesitantly reached a trembling hand to touch the horse's nose, the mare leaned into the contact. Warm and steady. It broke something inside her, in a good way. A tear slid down her cheek. Cole didn't mention it. Didn't embarrass her. Didn't ask why she cried. He simply stood there, silently guarding her as she touched the first living creature that hadn't hurt her in months. For the first time, Ilara felt a whisper of something she thought she had lost forever. Worth. With that came a terrifying question if she was worth saving. What else might she deserve? Safety? Freedom? A life? And most frightening of all, gentleness from a man like Cole Maddox? But before she could even begin to answer those questions, danger returned. One evening as the sun dipped low, Cole found tracks near the barn, fresh ones, boot prints, a cigarette butt, a piece of rope he didn't own. Someone had come onto his land. Someone had been watching. Ilara wasn't as safe as she believed, and Cole's jaw hardened with a promise. Whoever had chained her before wasn't finished, and he was coming back. The first sign wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. There was no broken window, no night attack. No bellowed threats from the darkness. It was simply that one evening. When the air cooled and dusk turned the ranch gold and purple, Ilara suddenly went still. Cole noticed immediately. They were sitting on the porch, she in the wooden rocking chair he had sanded smooth for her. He leaning against the post, arms folded loosely, watching the sun set across his fields. It had become their quiet ritual, a space where she didn't have to talk and he didn't have to fill silence with meaningless words. But tonight, Ilara's breath caught. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her blanket. Her eyes drifted toward the far fence line, not with curiosity, with recognition. Cole straightened. "You okay?" Ilara swallowed hard. I don't know." He followed her gaze. "The fence?" "The tree line." The shadows lengthening as evening swallowed the land. Nothing seemed out of place, but Ilara's shoulders trembled. He knelt beside her chair. "What do you see?" She shook her head. "Not see, feel something's wrong. It's like when a storm's about to break. You don't hear thunder yet, but you smell it." Cole didn't dismiss her instincts. He'd learned something in the short time she had been with him. Ilara's fear wasn't imagination. When she sensed danger, it came from wounds carved into her bones. So he didn't tell her she was mistaken. He didn't laugh, didn't shrug it off. He simply said, "Tell me what you need." Her eyes softened, the fear in them shifting to something else, something fragile and aching. "I need," she whispered, "I need to not be alone." Cole rose, pulled a chair close to hers, and sat beside her, close enough that she felt his presence. Far enough that she didn't feel trapped. The tension in her shoulders eased. The sun dipped below the hills, leaving only embers of light across the horizon. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Ilara breathed slowly, grounding herself in his steady company. Finally she whispered, "When he hurt me, I didn't fear the pain. I feared the feeling that no one knew where I was. No one was coming." Cole looked at her, the soft curve of her jaw, the flicker of strength in her eyes even while afraid. "Someone's here now," he said quietly, her lips parted, trembling. "You say it like it's simple." He shrugged gently. "It is. I choose to care. You choose to be cared for. That's all." Her breath hitched. "I don't know how to do that. Then we learn it slow." Those words, "we learn it slow," wrapped around her like a warm blanket, because that was the truth of her. Budding feelings for him. Not fast, not sudden, not the way stories described love. Hers was a slow flame, small but stubborn, born from safety and trust. Cole didn't push her. He didn't claim her. He didn't demand she open her heart. He simply stayed, over the next days. Ilara felt the shift inside her grow. She found herself watching Cole the way a frightened heart watched for reasons. To trust his gentle touch with horses, his patience with the ranch hands, the way he always knocked softly before entering her room, how he always made sure she ate before he did. He never treated her like a burden. Never treated her like something fragile. Never once looked at her with pity. Only respect. Only warmth. Only the steady strength of a man who cared quietly but deeply, and she felt something blooming. Something she feared naming. One morning, she stood by the corral fence while Cole saddled his gelding. The sunrise painted her in soft colors, rose gold on her skin, silver in her hair. Cole caught himself watching her longer than he should have. She noticed. Her cheeks warmed. "You're staring." Cole didn't look away. "Yeah, I am," her breath faltered. "Why?" He tightened the cinch, pausing before he answered. "Because you're looking more like yourself each day. And that's a mighty good sight." Ilara lowered her gaze, pretending to brush dust off her skirt, but her lips curved, small, hesitant. But real. It was the first time she'd smiled in front of him. His heart did something. Unfamiliar, something gentle and fierce all at once. Later that afternoon, as they tended the horses together, Ilara reached for a bucket at the same time he did. Their hands brushed lightly. A spark shot through her. She jerked back as if burned. "I'm sorry," she blurted, breath unsteady. Cole stepped back immediately, giving her space. "You don't have to apologize for touching me." "I didn't mean to." She looked down, embarrassed. "I know." His voice softened. "And I won't touch you unless you want me to. Ever. She looked up slowly, carefully, then whispered, "What if someday I did want that?" Cole swallowed hard, throat tightening. "Then I'd be the luckiest man alive." Her heart fluttered in her chest. The moment passed gently, but it stayed with both of them for days. Yet the sense of something approaching the storm Alara felt never fully faded. One evening, while Cole fixed the gate and Alara helped by holding the lantern, she froze again. Her eyes darted toward the ridge. Cole instantly noticed. "Alara?" She stepped closer than she ever had before, fingers gripping his coat sleeve. "It's him," she breathed. "I feel him getting closer." Cole's jaw tightened. He didn't doubt her, not for a second. He placed a hand over hers. Not gripping, just resting. His warmth steadied her. "You listen to me," he murmured, locking eyes with her. "No man touches you again. Not while I'm breathing." A tear slipped down her cheek, not from fear, but from relief. That because for the first time in her life, a man's promise didn't feel like a threat. It felt like safety, she whispered, voice shaking. "I don't want to be afraid alone." "You're not," he answered, and then something happened. She never expected something small. But shaking. She leaned into him. Not fully. Not desperately. Just enough that her forehead brushed his shoulder, her hand resting lightly against his chest. He went still. Not because he was tense, but because he understood how much trust that small gesture cost her. He brought one arm up, slowly, until his hand rested gently on her back. No pressure. No claiming. Just presence. Just warmth. Alara's breath trembled as she whispered into his shirt, "Why are you so good to me?" "Because you deserve good," he whispered back. "You always did." Her eyes closed. A soft sigh escaped her lips, not of fear, but of a heart beginning to believe she could be cherished. The night wind rustled through the grass. The lantern glowed warm beside them. The man who had once chained her was out there somewhere, drawing nearer each day, but in that moment, in Cole's arms, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt protected. She felt valued. She felt wanted, not possessed. The beginnings of love took root. Quiet, slow, steady. And when she finally pulled away, she didn't apologize. Cole's eyes softened. Hope flickered in them. Alara realized something then, something she hadn't dared to admit even to herself. Her past might be coming, but so was something else, something brighter, something gentler, something that felt like warmth in the dead of winter. Something like love. Cole Maddox had always been a quiet man. He fought his battles the way the land fought storms, steadily, patiently, without noise or show. But ever since Alara had whispered, "He's getting closer," something in Cole had shifted. Not fear. Not panic. Something older. Something deeper. Something like instinct. The instinct to protect. He didn't tell Alara everything he found. He didn't tell her he'd discovered blueprints near the creek, prints made by a man who traveled alone. He didn't tell her about the bent wire on the fence, or about the way the cattle had been spooked one night as if a stranger walked among them. Cole didn't want to burden her with fear she didn't need. What she needed was safety. What he needed was to ensure it. So he fought his war quietly. He reinforced the doors, checked locks twice each night, rode the perimeter before dawn and again after dusk. He asked trusted ranch hands to stay on through the evenings, not telling them why, only that he needed the help. And every night after his quiet patrol, he sat on the porch steps outside Alara's room, watching the shadows move across the fields. Sometimes he stayed till the sun rose. Alara sensed the tension, long before Cole admitted anything. She could feel it in the way he watched the horizon, the way his jaw tensed when the dogs barked at night, the way he stood a little closer when she walked from one building to another, not possessively, not controlling, just protective. It made her heart ache with gratitude, and something sweeter she was still afraid to name. One evening, while Cole was oiling his rifle on the porch, she stepped outside. She wore a shawl draped around her shoulders, her hair falling loose and soft. She looked stronger now, healthier, more alive. The bruises had faded. The haunted look in her eyes had softened. Cole looked up the moment he heard the door. "Alara," he said with a small nod. You should be resting. I rest enough, she answered gently. But you barely sleep. He hesitated. She moved closer, not touching him, but standing near enough that he could feel her warmth. She studied him for a moment, then asked softly, "You're worried?" Cole didn't lie. "Yes, ma'am, about him." He exhaled slowly. "I think he's looking for you." Her fingers tightened around her shawl. Not in fear, but in determination. "Then let him look. He won't find the same woman he hurt." Cole's eyes softened with pride. "You're stronger than you know." She stepped even closer. "Cole, I'm trying to be. Because you've given me a reason to try." The words hit him harder than any fist could. He set the rifle aside carefully, as if afraid any sudden movement might break the delicate moment unfolding between them. "Ilara," he murmured, "I ain't doing nothin' special. You are." Her voice wavered. "You treat me like I matter. Like I'm worth protecting." "No one ever did that. No one ever cared." He swallowed hard. "I care more than I should." Her breath caught because she felt that too. Felt it every time he looked at her with gentle eyes, every time he kept his distance, not out of disinterest, but out of respect. Felt it in every quiet act of protection he never asked her to notice. She stepped closer still, until her hand hovered near his arm close enough that a small shift would bring them into contact. "Cole," she whispered, "am I just someone you feel responsible for? Or do you care for me as a woman?" His breath stalled. He stood slowly, towering but soft, careful but steady. He lifted his hand hesitant, then brushed a single knuckle beneath her chin. She didn't flinch. "Ilara," he said with quiet conviction, "I care for you as the woman I—" But he stopped himself before saying the word love. He didn't want to scare her. Didn't want to push. Didn't want to rush something that was still fragile and new. She stepped into his touch anyway. "I know," she whispered. "I feel it." The air between them thickened. Not with fear, but with warmth, with unspoken promises, with something tender that neither dared name yet. And then, just as gently, she pulled back, not because she regretted the moment, but because she wanted to grow into it without fear. Days passed, and their bond only deepened. Ilara began helping around the ranch not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She fed the chickens, brushed the horses, even mended a few shirts for the ranch hands who admired her quiet resilience. She laughed once, a soft laugh. A real laugh. Cole heard it from across the yard and nearly dropped the saddle he was carrying. That night, he told her, "Your laugh. It's the best sound I've ever heard." Her cheeks warmed. "I forgot I still knew how." "You're remembering," he said softly. "Piece by piece." She smiled, a small, shy thing. But it made his entire week. One evening, as they walked by the corral, she slipped her hand into his dot, not by accident. Not by fear, but by choice. Cole froze. "Ilara," he whispered, "you sure?" She nodded, threading her fingers with his. "I feel safe with you." His heart thudded hard enough to shake him. He squeezed her hand gently. "Then I'll make sure you always do." But the quiet war wasn't finished. That night, a rider passed near the ridge. Cole saw the silhouette against the moon, a lone figure on horseback, pausing just long enough to survey the ranch before disappearing into the trees. Cole didn't wake. He simply loaded his rifle, sat on the porch, and waited. But he wasn't worried. Not the way he had been before, because now it wasn't just about protecting a frightened stranger. It was about protecting the woman he was falling in love with, the woman who had begun choosing him, the woman who reached for his hand, the woman whose courage grew because of his belief in her, the woman who mattered more than the ranch, the land, and his own safety combined. This wasn't fear anymore. This wasn't duty. This was devotion. The quiet war was nearing its end, and Cole Maddox was willing to risk everything, absolutely everything, for Ilara's future, and perhaps for their future together. After the confrontation with her past and the day she finally allowed herself to break down in Cole's arms, Ilara begins a quiet, steady path toward healing. Not the sudden, dramatic kind, but the gentle rebuilding of a woman who has learned to trust her breath again. Cole gives her the exact medicine she needs: time, space, and safety. He never hovers, never forces conversation. He simply exists nearby, always within reach, but never overwhelming her. Some mornings, when the ranch is quiet and dawn touches the horizon with pale gold, she walks outside wrapped in a shawl and sees Cole already working, glancing toward her with a small, reassuring smile. He doesn't speak unless she starts the conversation. Slowly, she grows comfortable enough to sit on the fence beside him, watching the horses, listening to the breeze. For the first time in a long time, she feels unobserved, unjudged, unnowned. The silence is healing. At night, she begins to sleep without waking in panic. The nightmares come less frequently, and Cole's steady presence outside her room, never entering, but always nearby, becomes a comfort she never knew she could rely on. She begins eating properly, her body recovering strength. She helps in small ways, sweeping the porch, brushing the horses, folding laundry. Every little task makes her feel human again. In this quiet, she begins to rediscover herself. Too, the moment she realizes she's not afraid of him. About a week later, something unexpected happens. Cole is repairing a fence post, and as he lifts a heavy beam, it slips. The sound is loud, like something breaking. Ilara flinches, the old trauma instinct rising like a shadow. But then she notices something. She isn't afraid of Cole. Her body doesn't tense. Her heart doesn't spike. She doesn't shrink away from him. She finds herself running toward him instead, checking his hand, asking, "Are you hurt?" That reaction surprises her. She steps back, breath catching, realizing how far she has come. Cole notices her confusion and gently asks, "What's wrong?" Ilara shakes her head, emotion thick in her throat. "I'm not scared of you," she whispers. It's the first time she says it aloud. Cole's reply is soft, full of something deeper than she can read. "I never wanted you afraid of me." This moment plants something tender and new between them. A quiet trust that roots itself deeply. 3. A growing softness between them. From that day forward, their connection becomes more natural. They talk more, not about the past, but about small things: how he came to own the ranch, her love of reading, the horses she likes most. Cole learns she has a soft spot for animals that have been mistreated. She learns he's gentle with every creature he touches. There is no dramatic confession of feelings, no sweeping declarations. Instead, something far stronger grows. Two souls stitching themselves back together beside each other. One evening, she bakes cornbread for him. It's burned at the edges, too soft in the middle. She's embarrassed. Expecting judgment, Cole takes a bite, smiles, and says, "Best thing I've tasted in a long while." She laughs, a real, warm laugh that surprises both of them. It becomes their first shared moment of joy. 4. A quiet night that changes everything. One night, as the sky stretches wide with stars, Cole asks if she wants to take a walk along the pasture. She agrees. The air is cool, the world wrapped in silence except for the rustle of grass and distant crickets. Cole tells her stories. Nothing deep, just moments from ranch life that make her smile. Ilara listens, her heart beating steadily, peacefully. Then halfway through their walk, she stops. Her breath catches as she looks at him, really looks at him, and realizes something has changed. She wants him near, not for protection, not for safety, not because she owes him anything, but because his presence feels right. Because her heart has begun to reach toward his without fear. He notices her staring, pauses. "Ilara?" he asks softly. She doesn't step back. She steps closer, something in Cole shifts, a quiet breath. As if he's afraid to move too quickly and scare her away, Ilara lifts a hand and places it over his. A small gesture. A massive step. Cole's voice is barely above a whisper. "You sure about this?" She nods. "I've never been more sure of anything." 5. She finally chooses, freely, fully, fearlessly. The next morning, she wakes before sunrise. She stands on the porch, watching Cole saddle a horse. She realizes something with absolute clarity. She is no longer a woman simply surviving. She is a woman with a choice. And she chooses him. She walks to him, touches his arm gently. He turns, eyebrows lifting, surprised by her boldness. "Cole," she says softly. He waits. Alara takes a breath, steady, confident. I want to stay here. On this ranch. With you. Not because I owe you anything, but because I want to. Cole doesn't reach for her immediately. He searches her face, making sure she means it, giving her the space to take it back if needed, but she doesn't look away. Only then does he step closer, lifting his hand to her cheek with slow, careful tenderness. His voice is low, full of warmth. I've wanted you here, but I needed you to want it too. She leans into his palm, the first time she has allowed herself to welcome someone's touch in years. A soft breeze passes. The horses shift quietly nearby. The morning sun rises over them. Cole lowers his forehead to hers, not a kiss yet, but a promise. Alara closes her eyes, letting the moment wash over her. She is no longer the woman chained to a wall, beaten and afraid. She is a woman choosing her future, choosing love, choosing him. Only when she lifts her chin, giving permission with a small, brave nod, does Cole kiss her. A gentle kiss, a healing kiss, the beginning of everything new.